still live on TV3. It's a new day. We're talking about, nursing, and recently, well, some weeks back, you saw some nurses picket at the Flagstaff House. They call themselves unemployed graduate nurses. But why do we have such a system? How different are they from the NTC nurses that we have? And in terms of skills, are they better off? Well, those on the field actually have a different view of what they can offer. But first of all, let me introduce my guests to you, tell them why, just to get a sense of, what their issues are, and then we'll get into the details of it. Adoma Francis is the Greater Accra Regional PRO for Unemployed Graduate Nurses. Adoma, that's you. All right, then. Also, Sharif Kwame Ariaga, Greater Accra Regional Coordinator from the University of Development Studies. So just let us understand, situate what your concerns are. The government has not employed you, and you want government to employ you. Is that it?
That is, yes.
That's just it. Why? How are you different from other nurses?
Yeah, that's even the more reason why we are worried, because we all went through the normal training, but we attained the degree. We went through 4 years of training, so we don't understand why even we, those of us who have been trained at higher educational level, have rather been left out. Where indeed Ghana need to improve healthcare system in the country. Okay, but having a degree does not necessarily make you better than someone who did the NTC. It makes a lot. It's academic. Researchers have shown very well that the more you keep long in the training, the more the level of medical errors reduces. Okay, but research also shows that people who have ground experience are better than those who just take certificates and walk around with it. Just share with me, right? Just situate with me what your numbers are. Have you engaged government? What is government saying?
We are over 600 in the country, across the country.
Okay.
The first place, beginning of this year, the government brought out some forms for us to apply.
Sure.
So that when you go through the interviews, and then you are picked, then you are posted. But when the news came out, we went to the various health directorates. When we got there, it was noticed around that degree nurses should not pick the forms. And so we went to...
Why?
A reason was not given.
Okay.
We're not given any reason to effect of that. So we contacted our leaders, and then they also moved to meet the various leaders who are in control of that. And so we wrote to the Minister of Health, and then Minister of Labor and Employment Relations. And then after meeting them consecutive times, we realized that there was not anything for us. In fact, the last time we had a meeting with the Director of Human Resources, Ministry of Health, and he just said it to us that, in fact, we are not in their plans now. And so, if anything, they will communicate to us. And we don't know when the time is coming.
Okay,
yeah.
so at least you've engaged them. All right.
Yeah, we've engaged them.
I'm glad you mentioned that you're not in their plans now. What do you think is the challenge for graduate nurses? Is it that the system hasn't been created well enough to absorb you? Because I think fitting you in the system is where the problem is, correct? Well,
I don't know which system you are talking about. Is it the training part or government of Ghana?
Your training, okay, if you come out as a graduate nurse, where will they place you?
That's like any other nurse.
You will sit by the bedside of somebody.
Yes.
You will stay at night. You are not going to do administrative.
We do administrative, research, bedside. In fact, everything. The disciplines in nursing, we do everything.
Okay, so where's the challenge here?
That is exactly what we are also asking government to tell us why they are not interested in posting us, because they can't talk about numbers. We are just a little above 600. Do you think that nurse, they should make a graduate degree, the basics? In fact, that should be the basic. Elsewhere in other countries, their target is that by 2020, they should have at least 80% of all their nurses starting from the basic as a degree. Okay. Well, your colleagues who are on the field, I mean, before this interview, I decided to get a sense of, what your work is, the nature of your work, and many others. They actually contend that those who did the diploma are better and well-skilled than those of you, because you are chasing the certificate to come and sit in our studio and say you are graduate nurses, and so you deserve better pay than those who did. What would you say to that?
It's never true. Nursing is...
Have you done any practical work?
Yes.
Where?
Kolebu Teaching Hospital, 37 Military Hospital, regional hospitals.
For how long?
I have done for about 4 years now. Throughout the first day you are stepped in the classroom, the lecture theater, you start
it's not the same, but it's not the
well,
same.
let me come. Those who have been posted right now, okay, they went for 3 years, okay. So as we were doing our practicals, they were also doing the same thing. Now we went ahead to do 1 year practical before even the service. So the schooling, we are 1 year ahead of them.
Okay. I get that because they are diploma. But it doesn't mean you're better than them. And it's like saying that you've gone to the university to go and do degree in marketing. So it means you're better than somebody who did the diploma in marketing. Maybe, but that person has very good practical experience that you don't have.
We haven't said anywhere that we are better than them. Neither are they better than us. But what we're saying is that we have equal opportunities. Okay. Now, when we are posted or when we get to the ward, more of supervisory role, senior nursing officer, and they are staff nurse. Okay, per the constitution, if you are giving somebody senior nursing officer and then staff nurse, the constitution even shows that some kind of level of knowledge.
You will get better pay. That's what it means to, right? Good. It's the money that is the issue.
And do you know that most of the diploma nurses want to do the degree? Why do they want to do the degree? It's not about the certificate. It's about the knowledge. Because the more you get the knowledge, the more you are able to move with the system. Okay. And we don't want to make it as if somebody is better than another, or we just want to create a conducive atmosphere for us to.
But in your mind, you think you're better than the diploma nurses? No. Every degree person thinks they are better than the diploma nurses.
You see, the issue is that for medicine, okay, for that matter, nursing, the more you are on the job, then you get to know the reality on the ground. Okay. So if you don't give me the opportunity to go and practice. Now I have my license, I have my certificates, registered nurse. I'm in the house. So how do you tell me I don't have the practical skills? So you haven't given the opportunity.
Right. But why are you all concentrating so much on government? There are private hospitals there, aren't there? Why? Why? If you're that good, you have that skill, why are you twisting government's hand to give you employment?
Yes, one, we've been trained with the taxpayers' money.
It's okay, you can go, they don't care.
Two, everybody would love to be developed, personal development. These are very limited in the private sector. And three, the pay is very small. In fact, an average nurse at the private hospital is taking 500 Ghana cedis. So
okay, so the private sector is not attractive. The government sector is attractive.
It's not about government sector is attractive or something. But you may like to put it in that direction, but our understanding is that government, you train as you needed as, that's why you could use other taxpayers' money to train us. So why allow us to rot in the house?
But you're sounding like someone who is doing charity, that government has used taxpayers' money to train you, and by force government should employ you. That's how you're sounding. And
government needs nurses. When you look at the nurse too.
And why are they not employed? If they need the nurses, it's because government can't employ.
No, it's not about, we are just a little about 600.
Okay, I know you want to say something. I'll give you the opportunity. Go ahead, please, go ahead.
With the private sector you're talking about, most of the private facilities in the country, they're making us very uncomfortable, frustrating us, in the sense that you apply to a private hospital, and then after interview, he will tell you that, well, if I can absorb you, I'm going to give you 200 Ghana cedis a month. And most of the private hospitals run 12 hours, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Well, so if a graduate, or let's say an ordinary nurse, you are taking 200 Ghana cedis, because they know that the government doesn't have a future for you. So you are in the system. So if they don't employ you, you will force yourself to be there. I personally have an experience.
So it means that money is an important element to you, and government has the capacity to employ you and pay you the money that you want, right?
It's part of the issue. Yeah, okay. It's part of the issue.
Because if he argues that they've used taxpayers' money and so by force they should employ him, I struggle to understand that a little bit. I really struggle to understand that a little bit. So how about championing the private sector who are rather mistreating nurses like yourself?
Yes, this is the situation where private sector in the country, even before you get to a private sector, we ask you experiences that you have had over the years. Okay. But they are not willing to absorb the the new graduates in the system.
Okay, all right.
And so
hang on a bit. We'll go on the phone line and speak to the Deputy Minister of Health, Dr. Victor Bampo, has joined us. I want to react to some of the things I almost said students, the graduate nurses, unemployed graduate nurses are raising in our studios. Dr. Victor Bampo, good morning to you, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Bridget. Thanks for.
Okay, all right. If we could just a little bit, if you could raise your voice just a little bit for us. Yeah. What would you want to react to based on what the students, the graduate nurses have said?
Well, I was listening to the interview, and what I wanted to say a few things.
Sure.
To let my brothers in the studio know that I think that probably misinterpreted what the Director of Human Resources at the Ministry of Health said about in the plans of the ministry. That cannot be. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you that, as you know, there's a plethora of health facilities that are being constructed, and we need the human resource. So, there's no question about the fact that they are required.
Okay.
Secondly, they have, by their training, a special place in the health system. So, yes, they are required. What it is that we are going through a process of streamlining the way nurses and other health personnel are brought on board. I'm sure that you heard that about 2 or 3 weeks ago, 4,799 of the diploma and certificate nurses were employed.
Yes.
So we have the list of these graduate nurses. I am very much aware that my minister and the Minister of Finance are in some kind of discussion about submitting the list for clearance to be sought and obtained so that they can be employed.
Okay.
Finally, it is interesting that they themselves mentioned that the government sector is more attractive than the private sector. It's clear that government is doing something right. We have the places for them to work, and we will employ. Eventually, yes, some of them would have to work in the private sector because government cannot employ everybody. But as we speak now, looking at the number of health facilities that are coming up, there is a need for them, and we'll make sure that we fast-track bringing them on board so that they can contribute to the healthcare of Ghanaians.
But Dr. Victor Bampo, I mean, you talk about, yes, they're going to, you're going to get them on board, the process, but I feel it's slow. Process is so slow, and time when you're not working, it's terrible.
Yes, I think that one must look at it within a certain context. There's a reason why some of these processes have slowed down. It is because a few years ago, we used to have people coming on board who were not supposed to be there. All the process of eliminating goods names and so on has meant that we need to be a bit more careful with the scrutiny. Okay. So, for example, the Nursing and Midwifery Council has to certify the names of the people who we are submitting to finance. And even with this new process that we have embarked upon, sometimes we see that some of the names on the list do not have to be there. And for every single person that we are paying who does not have to be there, they occupy the space of somebody who legitimately has to be there.
Okay.
So we've tried to make it as quick as possible, but there is a balance between making it too quick and then also making sure that the list that we submit are the right people who need to be employed.
All right, Dr. Victor Bampo, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for that explanation there. Are you in any way satisfied with what he said?
Somehow, because when you meet them, the information is quite different.
When you meet them, what did you say?
Yes, that they are seeking financial clearance and they don't know when.
No, but that's what we said, that it's about money.
It's about money, yes.
You would have to be paid even higher than the NTC nurses.
Yes.
But even though it doesn't mean you're better than them. So it means that the nursing system has to even look at the education itself.
Yes.
Is that correct? Do you agree that they have to look at how they are training you and the NTC nurses?
Yes. If they have to look at it from that perspective, then I wouldn't think that the diplomas would have to upgrade to the degree level. Because if with the diploma, the government is okay, or we are okay with the nursing care being delivered by the diploma, then I wouldn't think that they should go. But most of them, as I tell you now, would want to apply to do the degree.
Yeah, so because they know that you're going to get some money.
It's not about the money. You know, one thing that I have to put on board is that when you talk of some countries, even the degree is the basic. The degree is the basic.
But of course, we'll have to move at the pace of our development. But I want to come to you as well. Yes, you just make your comment and I'll ask you a question.
As we are talking about the qualifications, government is in the process of making the colleges, nursing colleges, to also award degree.
Okay.
So if the qualification is not important, why is government moving towards that?
Well, maybe then because when I spoke to a nurse, she was of the view that, well, when you guys come in, you're not going to do the work that they do. Sit by patients' bedside, you're going to do more administrative and earn more than that.
Did you speak to a diploma nurse? Or
why not? Of course, I had to speak to a diploma and degree nurse. But let me ask you a question. That's outside. Let me ask you, are you afraid that the new government hospital, I'm told, will have to take in a because Dodowa has been commissioned, the University of Ghana is there. Are you afraid that perhaps if you don't get the employment now, it will be commissioned and you won't get a job at all? Is that what the fear is?
Yes. Listening, when you heard the Director of Human Resource at Ministry of Health, what he said was that the plans they have is that they are going to finish absorbing the diploma nurses. So you're afraid? After 2017, they will consider us. So if somebody who completed 2011 is still sitting at home, and you are telling us after 2017, you consider us, then obviously he's telling us that there are no plans at all for us.
Maybe they are hot cake, that's why.
Let me just add something.
How? That's the question. How?
Because they are needed. Because some of your colleagues just go, like you said, do administrative work. They are walkabouts. No, what do you call you guys? What do they call
Senior
you?
nursing officers.
Senior nursing officers. Yes, you white and white belts. The women wear white belts. Is that? Oh, I have some in my home.
Have you had an encounter with a degree nurse in the field before?
I have. Yes,
so what's your take on
Terrible. That? You don't want me to talk about it. You don't want me to talk about degree nurses. I love diploma nurses.
Let me.
Go ahead.
There's one thing. Okay.
Go ahead.
If we say terrible, I wouldn't agree with you. Okay.
I'm telling you, my experience is terrible. I won't lie that it's good when it's terrible.
What happens is that as we speak now, as of 2011, people are still in the house.
Yes.
People who graduated 2011, they are still in the house. Even yesterday when the news went out, somebody to 2010 is still in the house. Okay. If you talk of the experience.
So in the meantime, can you apply to a private clinic and work there and earn some income instead of being on government's tail that government must by force employ you now?
The private man is not ready to absorb us.
And government is also not ready to absorb you.
So if the private, the government, you are not able to absorb us, and the private, so how do we go about it? Because he has his own budget. He wants, what quality. He can do, not quality. Quality comes to a play, but he thinks that, you have the quality, but then I can't pay you. Even if you have agreed to what he said. Look at what I was telling about 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 200 Ghana cedis. How will you even save?
Should government force the private sectors to have a certain cap that if you're a nurse, because what I know is that with a single spine pay policy, there's a cut-off, there's a starting point for you, graduate nurses. So would you want government to maybe also be more strict on private hospitals that they maltreat, nurses like yourself?
Yeah, exactly.
Would that work?
Yeah, because the private sector also helps, development of the country.
Sure.
And so if you have measures to put in place to absorb some of the graduates there, it will help to relieve the government a bit.
Okay.
But there is no situation or there is no policy restricting the private sector. And so as at now I speak to you, they don't even want to employ the diploma nurses. Okay. It's about the NVTI stuff so that they can pay them little and then charge exorbitantly.
Okay.
You understand the issue there?
I understand you. So apart from nursing, what else do you do?
Well, I'm trained to be a nurse. And from a farming community.
So you're from UDS?
UDS,
okay.
Yeah. I train in UDS, but I'm from Volta region.
Oh, okay, nice.
So if government says it's not going to employ me and my skills is as a nurse, then it means that it's telling me to go back to my village
and go and farm
and waste my skills there.
Okay, all right. What about you as well?
I'm not doing anything. The only thing is that I wake up in the morning, pick my application letters, move from one hospital to the other on foot.
Okay.
And you come home so exhausted. When they call you, they tell you that, okay, Francis, that is what we can do for you. If you can't take an offer.
But are you aware there are actually vacancies in hospitals?
Which hospitals?
I don't want to put it.
The government.
But then they don't want to employ graduate nurses.
The government,
the government, you know. So you're aware.
No, for the private hospitals,
yes.
I understand there are vacancies. Okay, but the issue is that if somebody who completed 6 months training, and then you have institutions 6 months, and he's paying the person 200 Ghana cedis, while the person, we for ours, the knowledge is higher. I mean, with the administrative one. So when it comes...
When you say the knowledge is higher, just try and... I want to understand, you know,
see,
what work
let me
you
bring
do.
it,
because there's a doctor...
Let me bring it down.
Trust me, it's not, but fine. I want you to explain it well, right? Because there's a doctor there. And then you'll be the senior nurse.
Yes.
And then there's a nurse,
yes.
right? Okay,
yes.
so explain to me how your job is either a pal or to what the doctor does.
Yes, so let's say a doctor prescribes a drug, okay.
Yes.
Straight away gives to the senior nursing officer there. You have to, even if he gives to the staff nurse has to report to his or her in charge that this is the issue, okay. Or if you see any abnormality that a doctor is not aware, you have to report. You don't take immediate...
abnormality, what do you mean by that?
Let's say you are on the ward and a patient is gasping for air. You have to report to your in charge.
And you're saying the nurse doesn't know this? Is that
no,
what
the nurse
saying?
knows it. You know, in medicine, we have what do you call it, restrictions there. A nurse, you can't even prescribe sometimes, unless in emergency situations. You can't prescribe. And so you don't say that you know the drug, so you're going to do prescription. It is left to somebody.
But there's a doctor there, right?
If there is not even a doctor, you have to even call the doctor to confirm
your
that is the
wants to say something.
And so let me,
sure,
yes.
go ahead.
And so the staff nurse, he also reports to the senior nursing officer.
Sure.
So the staff nurse can't do everything, even though the knowledge is there, but they have to seek the consent of the senior.
Go ahead. You want to say something?
The situation in our house now is because we have narrowed nursing to bedside alone. And that is the problem we are facing now. So what we are saying is, employ graduate nurses. Then we go out into the complexities of nursing responsibility. We ensure that
just try simplify the complexity of the nursing, graduate nurses.
Yes, we have nurse as an educator. A patient is in the ward, the patient doesn't know about his or her condition. You're supposed to do something, you have to teach the patient to understand. Then we have the nurse as a researcher. As I'm talking now, have you ever heard of a published research work done by a nurse in this country?
No, I haven't bothered myself, so I wouldn't know.
Yes. So if on daily basis we go to the hospital and we are taken care of, and in the near future or years after there is no changes.
What? Okay, all right.
Obviously we can't know whether we are moving at the wrong direction or at the right direction.
So what you're saying is like this is supposed to be the ideal situation.
That
is supposed to be the ideal, but it's not the case. It's like saying that, I mean, at the work here, right? I'm supposed to have, you know, a floor manager, you have a producer and all of that. But there are certain things that we anyway distort the quality of the production that we do.
But in health, it matters a lot.
So what would you do now? Would you then wait for some of the hospitals that are being commissioned? Because I think it would wouldn't it also be a lie to actually say, oh, we'll employ you next week and it doesn't happen?
That is the issue.
Or you want guarantee that when those hospitals are ready, you'll be employed and not the next.
Yeah, the uncertainties because when the when the forms were released, we thought that they were going to give us the opportunity to pick the forms so that when you go for the interview and you don't get it, then you know that you one way or the other you couldn't. But we're denied.
Right.
So for the first place, why were we denied? Okay, give us the equal opportunity, fair, grounds.
But how about the institutions that trains you? I mean, there's a lot of concentration on government. We know what government can do, what government cannot do. How about the institutions that train you? Have you made the proposal to them? Is the institution itself considering that making the degree, like you said, as a basic, so that everybody else is started on that same field? So the nurse that is the NTC will be you.
Government is busily interested in the diploma. So if our maybe head of departments or the universities are going to take action that no, it should be basic, to me there will never be a correlation. In fact, what we are saying is that give us all the opportunity to buy the forms. We go through. Can you imagine? Even as we're talking now, they don't go through interview. They just posted, and this so-called that they say they can perform better. There will still, even if it is true, there will still be those that cannot perform better. So how do you identify them?
Okay, there are quack doctors even in the system.
Yeah.
So that one. No, go ahead, make your point, and then we can wrap up the.
Yes.
interview.
So we were trying to say that, and after posting the diplomas, the information that came out that all nurses across the country have been posted. Meanwhile, we have categories of nurses.
So they should be specific and say graduate nurses or NTC nurses.
Exactly, because if somebody is out there, Francis, you have been posted, and why are you talking? Okay, right. And moreover, the last word I want to add is that not only us, but even those in school, because if we have completed, we don't have future. how they, especially those in my school and the newly created university, University of Allied Health.
Sure.
Yeah, we want to assure them that they should, we've heard their concerns. They should calm down.
But are you all going through the what is it called, the public schools, or because I know there are some unaccredited private schools, right?
Yes, if you are not accredited, that one you are out of the game. But some of the private schools are accredited.
Yeah, but if you go to a private school, seek a private job, be more competitive, because there has to be competition. Because look, before you apply for a job, you've got to be screened. You've got to meet
That
other
is why give us the fair play
So
and let all apply. So that you, if I'm coming from a private university, and this guy is coming from public university, give us the ground.
All right.
Let's compete.
Let's prove ourselves.
You understand? And so we assure them that we have heard their concerns.
For clearance sake.
So prove your point. You mean in an interview or practical? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, both. I'm telling you both.
As for interview, you
Both.
just go and speak grammar.
Yes,
it's a field where
you
that's
know,
important.
before you can be certified as a registered
All right,
nurse,
thank
we do
you.
practical examination. Okay,
All
we
right.
go to the field. So doesn't mean that the certificate is being awarded as a registered general nurse.
You
Yeah.
came with a certificate.
Yeah.
So what happens when you get employed? What happens to the Unemployed Graduates Association? That's just on the lighter side.
No, that is, we are fighting for this. So when we get employed, then
Thank you. Thank you
we
very
don't
much.
have any
Aduma Francis is the Greater Accra Regional PRO for, he went to University of Ghana, Unemployed Graduate Nurses. Sharif Kwame Ariaga, Greater Accra Regional Coordinator. He is from the University of Development Studies. They just want to be given a level playing field so that they can also compete with the other nurses and see nurses and not them. And that's their biggest fear. I think if they get the assurance that government will actually absorb them and maybe commit to them, they will just, the association will no longer exist. Thank you both for coming. All right, then. So